Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Everyday I'm Mothering. Today I'm going to be talking about the English curriculum that we use as part of homeschool. So this will be our third year homeschooling, and we have kept the same curriculum, our main curriculum, and then English and math for these 3 years because I just love them. If you haven't checked it out yet, I'll link it below, but I did talk about our main curriculum, and that's Torchlight. So you can learn all about that one in the link below. But today I want to talk specifically about our English. And the English program that we use is Logic of English. So there are a lot of options out there, and primarily the reason that we went with Logic of English was that it was the recommended English program through our Torchlight curriculum. So that's why I initially started to look at it, but the more that I researched, the more that I thought this was going to be a really good match for us, and it has been. We've loved it. So if you're not familiar with Logic of English, it's really set up with foundations and then essentials. So it's kind of divided into two groups. I've been using foundations. My girls are going into kindergarten this year and second grade. So we're in the elementary part of homeschool. So foundations is really geared more towards kindergarten and second grade, and then you move on to essentials after that. So we haven't really done much with essentials. I can't talk too much about it, but that is what we plan on moving to next year, if not maybe mid this year. What makes Logic of English stand apart to me is the way that they go about teaching reading, spelling, and writing. Traditionally, we see a lot of focus on sight words and memorization, and that is not the way that Logic of English is approaching learning. Overwhelming kind of message of Logic of English is that they don't want kids to just learn to memorize words, that makes it more difficult to understand why do we pronounce things the way that we do? Why are they spelled this way? And if they can understand that why part, then it makes it so much easier in the future to figure out how to pronunciate, new or strange words to them, and to figure out how to spell words that they've never seen before. So it's not just memorizing these sight words and spelling, it's understanding what are the spelling rules in the English language, which can be very difficult because the English language doesn't always make sense, and traditionally in the way we would think about it. So in breaking down why letters say which of their sounds when, why words are spelled which way when, like for example, silent E. We've learned so many different reasons of why there's a silent E on a word that now when Elena starts to pronounce a word, she can easily tell it's going to have a silent E because it has, the long sounding vowel in the middle. Things like that she is able to think through and actually figure out and explain why words are spelled that way, why this word is pronounced this way. They really break it down to phonograms and rhythm of writing with the strokes. So I will say that starting out, probably the first week or two, well, maybe just the first week, was very tedious. Elena in kindergarten, she could already recognize her letters. She was able to write some, spell some things, read some basic small words. So for us to start with a program that was really reteaching letters, it seemed almost too basic, and at first I was thinking, I've made a mistake, this is too easy. But, after that first week where she wasn't really too excited or into it, it really started to grow because of the way that they teach it from their foundation on, it builds upon that. So all that to say, stick with it, give it more than just a week or two, and it really does change. The program is built around the idea of phonograms. So for example, instead of teaching the letter A, you call it a, ah. When you're showing them a card that has A on it and you're asking them to identify that letter, they are not going to just say that is A. They're going to say that's a, ah. So they're doing their short, long, and broad sound, that letter. And that is the way that they will learn all of the letters. For example, G. Instead of saying G, they say G, J, because that is the two sounds that G will make. So that's kind of counterintuitive going into it. It was a little tricky for me to learn and get used to saying that as well, but that has really paid off in the long run. So they start off in Foundation A, building on those blocks of phonograms and learning to write. You can pick whether you want to start with manuscript or cursive, and I know a lot of people recommend starting with cursive. For me, starting out, we decided just to do manuscript. Looking back on it, I probably would recommend starting with cursive because now I can see why that's a little easier. You don't pick up the pencil, and I think they get better control of their pencil and the correct way to write. But we're still happy with doing manuscript, and I'm going to go back and do cursive at some point. Cursive or manuscript, they actually break down the way that they write into strokes. So they don't learn, to write an A with the circle and the line. They start learning, the half circle or the full circle, or how to stroke, a slant down. And the important thing with that is they learn the direction, and they learn how they're actually supposed to make the strokes of each letter. And then they put it all together. So again, at the beginning, if they're already knowing how to write some of that, it can be a little bit simple, a little bit repetitive. But when they put it together, you'll see they just run with it. When you buy Logic of English the first time, it's going to be your larger investment initially because you're going to be buying the bundle. When we bought Level A, I think it was around $160. And when you get that, you get your teacher book, your student workbook, and like Doodling Dragons sound book, and then you get all your extras. So there's flashcards, the phonogram cards, little tiles for spelling out, and most of those you'll use again in the other levels. To purchase, like say level B, it's going to be around $80 or $90, and you'll get your new teacher book, student book, usually some new little sound book. I get additional cards, additional readers. I know level D came with quite a few books with add-on that had additional reader books in it. So that's about what you can expect cost-wise. For us, we have 3 girls that we're moving through homeschool. I have Elena entering 2nd grade this year, and then Adeline will start kindergarten. So for her, I was able to reuse Foundations A and B for this upcoming year. The only thing I needed to purchase was another student book because I do like having that printed off. You could do a digital version and print it yourself, but I just liked having the book for that. And it's about $18, I think. So for her, I'm only spending that $18 for the book this year versus, the original starting cost. So if you have more kids, it will be pretty cost effective in the long run to use this program. The way Logic of English is laid out as far as teaching is it is very hands-on. So again, this isn't something you're just going to hand them a workbook and be done, or turn on the TV and they're getting a lesson that way. It is more hands-on. Now, as they get older and they can read, obviously like with essentials, I think it'll be a little less of that kind of commitment from the parent. But with this one, it is going to require you to sit down with them and go over the lesson. It's very easy. The parent guidebook lists out literally everything you have to say. And typically the lessons are broken apart with learning a phonogram at the beginning, learning your strokes, move into a little bit more. It's kind of phonogram, writing, spelling, reading comprehension. And you'll start to see that those categories, repeat themselves, and you can plan your lesson around that. And a lot of these lessons also include games, which is important to me. We tend to do more of an eclectic type of home style approach. I love the hands-on, the game learning. So for Logic of English, they will often include things like when they're first learning to write, writing them with salt, with shaving cream. They include a lot of games to help them learn their phonograms and spelling. For example, one of the ones Elena loved was hopscotch, and we could write out all the phonograms. She would hop to them and say all their letters. There's also been relay races. They'll have targets on the walls where you can throw the ball and say the words. And then another favorite in level C has been the detective. And she gets to put on, her detective hat and her little magnifying glass, and I hide the words around the room, and she has to go around and find them, figure out the clues as to what they have in common, which is usually, why we pronounce them a certain way or why they're spelled a certain way. So there is a lot of that getting up, acting out. There's some physical aspect. With your parent book, you have your student book. And so there are some, worksheet type things with this one, which my daughter loves workbooks. I could hand her one and she would be happy as could be to work on it and complete like a whole one in an hour because she just loves them. So I do like that it has some of that, but even in the workbook, a lot of it is reading comprehension. It's putting stories in order, connecting things. There's even games within the book. So there's all different ways that they're reinforcing this information. And then they do come with readers to learn how to read and starting out. There's the little books, and they'll really talk about topics. You'll get to learn more about them. You'll figure out what you're reading based on what phonograms that you've been looking at. And A, B, C, and D each has their own set of books. Parent teaching perspective, There are a lot of resources with Logic of English. So there is an app you can download that will help you pronunciate all the sounds of the phonograms. Some, I admit, that even stumped me. So I like having the sound I could play to make sure I was doing it correctly. A lot of resources online. There's videos, and I think they may be introducing some online courses too. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think they're looking into it if that's something that would interest you. I will say, as far as learning to read goes, if you're just starting out, find a program to teach your child how to read. Elena started this program, she was 5. She, like I said, could identify her letters. She could, spell like her name, write some things like that, read some basic words. It's probably more memorization, honestly. She would memorize her books. So I don't know how much she was really understanding and reading the words if they weren't in that context. But with this program, she was reading in just a matter of months. And of course, it started small, but then it was like as soon as it clicked with this program, it just took off. She ran with it. So now we're getting ready to go into 2nd grade this year, and we'll be in Foundation D. Last time I tested her a few months ago, she was reading at about a 5th grade level, a little higher than that. Of course, that's going to differ by child, but from our perspective, this has been very successful in teaching her how to read and building that confidence. Now, with that said, because Elena is such a strong reader, I do feel like level C and level D have been a little too basic with the reading. She has shot much farther past where the reading is in these 2 levels, but I've kept with them because it's really helping her with her spelling and learning the rules and the phonograms. And I think it's very important that she continues to learn how to pronunciate the words, how to spell them. She can read and she can understand them, but I do think she still needs to build that grasp, and this is still really helping with that. As far as how long the lessons take, we did level A and level B both in her kindergarten year. So we did a full lesson a day of level A and level B. It pretty perfectly into a 1-year chunk of homeschool. For 1st grade, I decided to change it up a little bit. It had begun to feel like a lot, and I knew a lot of people were starting to break apart the lessons at this level. For level C, for each lesson, we broke it into 2 days. So we did half the lesson on Monday, the rest of the half on Tuesday. Same thing Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday we took a break from English and actually math as well. Could have easily done C and D both in 1 year. I just chose to kind of stretch them out to D at the beginning of 2nd grade. Because she's moving so quickly though, I'll try to get D done by December and move into Essentials come January. Essentials will move towards more difficult spelling and grammar and away from the reading aspect and phonograms. Additional Logic of English, we do Right Start Math. We also use Grammar Galaxy and Beast Academy, and I will be doing separate videos on all of those, so make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and you'll be notified when those come out. If you have any homeschooling questions or questions about the curriculum, make sure to note those down below in the comments. And I'm also going to be doing an FAQ on starting homeschool, what that looks like, as well as sharing our routine and some tips in staying organized. Bye, everyone.